Hello there, welcome to Football-Oranje. It is a sort of mini podcast to react to the European draws for Dutch sides. Ajax will be playing Benfica in the last 16 of the Champions League. We're also going to be reacting to PSV drawing Maccabi Tel Aviv and Vitesse possibly playing Rapid Vienna in the Europa Conference League. We'll also be touching upon the Ajax AZ result, a massive shock in the Eredivisie. And I'll be discussing that with Mike just in a moment. So, Mike, Benfica for Ajax in the Champions League. What do you think?
I think it could have been much worse.
I agree.
I'm not putting Benfica down. They came through a group that has Bayern Munich and Barcelona, and you can say Barcelona aren't the same team at the moment as they are at the moment, but they still got through it. And yeah, PSV did well against them before going out, early in the season. And I think they're third in the Portuguese league, and Ajax have easily got past Sporting over two games. I mean, if you can do that against a team that's leading the way in Portugal, then you should be able to do that against a team that's sitting third. So I think that we'd be saying something very different if the first draw had stuck and they got into Milan. But with Benfica, I think Ajax can be pretty happy with that draw.
Yeah, when Inter came out the first time, that was a bit of a tough one for Ajax. I think they would have found that quite tricky to get through over two legs. But then Benfica, yeah, as the second time round, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but if you look at the results against Sporting, then with a defence like they had as well, then Ajax have got a brilliant chance to get through to the quarterfinal of the Champions League again. And then in the next round, it would be completely different if they can get past Benfica. They know that they're going to be facing a real tough cookie in the quarterfinal. I think that it looked as though all of the top sides are playing against sides that they can beat. For example, Chelsea finished second in their group, but they drew Lille from the seeded teams. And you know that Chelsea on their day should be getting past Lille. Yeah, a lot of sides look quite protected in that draw, getting through quarterfinal. All the big sides will be in it. And then so on. Can Ajax handle it? I think I've said for a little while, actually, that they're going to be focusing a lot on these Champions League knockout rounds. It may explain why they're not doing quite so well in the Eredivisie. This is a great side, and I think they've been putting a lot of energy in late February, early March into getting past Benfica. I think that'll be their sole focus in those weeks. They'll want to try and get a few wins before then to get a bit of a lead at the top of the Eredivisie. Then they can concentrate on it. Yeah, I think they've got the attacking quality to see them through that tie.
Yeah, I think that at the moment I'd put Ajax favourites for it, and they just need to live up to that. I mean, we've seen them have banana skins in the past, but it seems that Champions League is what they're going for at the moment. So it seems that is where they raise their game. And yeah, we can talk about them losing to AZ Alkmaar the weekend, but yeah, their games against Benfica will be totally different. They'll be switched on, and I think that you have to be very confident Ajax will reach the next round, and then from that point on, who knows what could they draw, who do you get, and yeah, it'd be exciting for Ajax if they do get to the quarterfinals to see if they can really test themselves against one of the real top teams. I mean, Dortmund are good, but I think that when they get to the quarterfinals, if they get somebody like a Chelsea or a PSG or Liverpool, then it's going to be much tougher.
Yeah, let's actually talk about Ajax against AZ because it just happened over the weekend. We will talk about PSV and Vitesse, but I want to get into why Ajax have had these struggles in the league. Feyenoord and PSV, that shouldn't be so close to them in the table. PSV now ahead of them and leading their way in the Eredivisie. How have Ajax allowed that to happen? They've dropped points against Heracles, Go Ahead, Utrecht, and then this one against AZ. But a couple of times too, some really narrow wins, like the one against Spartak, I remember quite vividly. Games where they've had more shots, had more possession. Have they just been unlucky? Or was this result against AZ, again, a sign of the times that, I don't know, is it a focus thing that they... that they just don't switch on as well for the Eredivisie? I read a comment from Jurgen Timber after the game, and he said that they didn't see any differently. They were focusing just like they were for any other game. But is that an easy thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they always say after when they lose these games, is the fact that it's focus for Ajax, because it is really, the the team that they have and the way that they can play in the Champions League, you say that they should be winning pretty much any game in the Eredivisie outside of maybe the PSV and Feyenoord games. They're the tough tests, but at home against AZ Alkmaar, you'd expect Ajax to win that, and they just weren't at it the weekend, and which is surprising because Ten Hag did rest some players in midweek, so I couldn't even say tiredness was a part of it. The game against Sporting didn't really matter. In the long run, you won it, but I mean, a couple of players got a rest. Dusan Tadic got a rest. He came back into the lineup, but yeah, there seems to just be something in the league this year that it seems to be a lack of penetration sometimes in games, because you can't really fault the defence because they've conceded 4 goals all season in the league, and it just seems like against an organised defence sometimes they just seem to come unstuck, and
it always seems to be that, doesn't it, when a team sits really deep and then they just try and hit on the counter attack. Heracles did it very well and actually created some great chances on the counter. Go Ahead just sat back and defended the whole game, but Ajax couldn't find a way through that. They like to play against teams that they find are quite open defensively. Then they can create so many openings, and that's when they beat teams like PSV 5-0.
Yeah, and I think that what that shows is that some Eredivisie teams are going to start noticing that, and then Ajax have to find a way to get through it, because AZ defended greatly on Sunday, deserved the victory. They could have even had further goals. There was chances for more goals for AZ, so I mean, you can't say that AZ didn't deserve it on the day. So it's good for the title race. It does make it a bit more exciting. I mean, we do have a 3-horse race at the moment. PSV leading the way, and Feyenoord and Ajax is a point behind them, so that's exciting for the league. But when you're, Ten Hag, you must just be hitting your head off the wall thinking, what's going on? Like, we're going to the Champions League, we hammer everyone there, and then it comes to their division, and then they're dropping points against teams that they should comfortably be beating, and they must just be scratching his head to what's going wrong. But yeah, it was a surprise to me. I didn't think AZ had that in them. I don't think they've been that great this season. But yeah, fair play to them. They did their job brilliantly, and it's good signs for them that are climbing back up the league. I think they're still in 8th place, but yeah, just Ajax just need to regain the focus, or they might not win the league this year. PSV and Feyenoord do have the capabilities of going unbeaten in teams around them. So I mean, it could be a case that if Ajax don't step up, then PSV or Feyenoord could punish them. And yeah, I mean, I agree with the comment there that Mizraoui was a big miss.
Bring it up.
Yeah, the defence. I think that Wrench is a player that has sort of regressed from last season. I think Mizraoui stepped up, and he now see that he's verging on eventually becoming a world-class right-back, because I think he is that good, and he's been playing that well for Ajax this season. But the partnership with him and Anthony has just been on fire, and yeah, with Wrench coming in, it isn't the same.
I think it's worth talking about AZ here. The reason why we're not reacting to AZ and Feyenoord in this Dutch European draw is because they finished top of their groups and they've gone straight through to the last 16. They don't have to play this extra qualifying round, which PSV and Vitesse do. I think it's worth mentioning AZ here because they've qualified top of their group. It's brilliant for Dutch football to show that a team that's not in the top 3 is able to do that. They didn't have the toughest group ever, but they were very professional with their way that they won games. They played their strongest team for every single match in that group. And Jesper Karlsson is a great talent. I think they've defensively they've really strengthened. I really doubted that they'd go to Ajax and defend. So I thought, well, if they did try and defend, then they might have a chance because Ajax don't like that. But I thought, no, AZ won't do that. They don't adapt to that kind of tactics. They just like to go and attack because that's what they do best. And yet they surprised me. Pascal Janssen has obviously decided that, yeah, you can get at Ajax by defending. He had a 4-3-3, which became a 4-4-2 in defence. Danny de Ligt came out to the left. He put Karlsson in the middle with Pavlidis, and it worked a treat because those that work in, he had Sugawara, who's normally a right back, defending on the right, and Danny de Ligt, who's a hard-working midfielder on the left. And that worked brilliantly because then they could give the ball to the top 2 players and they could try and make things happen. You can look at the stats and you can say that it was something like 26 shots to Ajax and 5 to AZ. but AZ were really effective. They didn't give Ajax many brilliant opportunities. I think the one where they nearly scored was Aller when he headed it straight at Vindal, and then in the follow up, Vindal kind of ate it up and he gobbled it up and got on top of the ball, which is great goalkeeping. Something I haven't seen from Vindal actually that much since he joined AZ. But as a whole, they were able to defend better, and with someone like Carlson, you know that you can have a bit of magic in attack to quite well taken goals. And I think this surprised me about them, because I didn't think they had the strength to come back after a really poor start of the season. But I think they just proved us wrong because everyone put them down at the start of the season, and now they're winning games. They'll be, I'm sure, 4th or 5th. And Europe, that should be their aim. That should be something they target now, knowing that they'll finish quite high in the table. They won't get into top 3, and they can beat someone in the last 16, and then all of a sudden you're the quarterfinals, and things start to go a bit strange in European competition. I think have they proven you wrong there, Mike? Because I know at the start of the season I doubted them, but I know you did even more so, and they're doing well.
Yeah, they've turned it around, but they're still 8th.
Yeah, that's a fair point. They're not there yet.
Yes, they still need to step up for the rest of the season. I think they are still a couple of players short. I mean, you can't keep playing the same 11 week in, week out.
Yeah.
And I think that in January, you need a couple of enforcements to really push on. I think they're a striker short and maybe a midfielder as well. And to that quality away from being the 3rd, 4th best team in the league. They haven't replaced Koopmeiners, and they don't have competition for Pavlidis. So I think if they added that in January, then yeah, they could climb up, and then they'll be battling for 4th or 5th in the table. But until they do that, then I can still see them dropping points because their squad is so thin, and they don't seem to be yet ready to rely on the youngsters who are doing okay in the 2nd division, or top half in the 2nd division. So they have some talent there. I just thought they're just not getting the game time that I thought they would get this season, because when they sold some players, I thought that meant that they'd give youth a chance. But it just seems that they play the same 11 with the same sort of 1, 2, 3 subs every game, instead of giving likes of Tabuni, even Koopmeiners' younger brother. He's not made his debut yet. So there is talent in the 2nd team that needs to get given a chance.
Now, I did say that we're starting this podcast by talking about Ajax. To come back to them briefly, the defensive record that Ajax held going into that game against AZ, they exceeded 2 goals all season, and AZ doubled that and made it 4. I think that a lot of credit has to go down to Yudin Timber and Lisandro Martinez. Those two in centre defence, even though they play for a team like Ajax and don't have a lot to do all game, that's the reason. It's them two. And you said Mazraoui, yeah, he's doing a good job at right back. Delia Blint's doing a good job at left back, particularly on the ball. But Martinez and Timber, for 2 guys who, you're not your rough and tumble 6'6" defenders, but they're really clever players. They're very agile, brilliant on the ball, and actually they do surprise you physically in what they can do. Martinez is that kind of player that puts an elbow in you when the ref's not looking, and he'll get his way with a striker when he has to play against them. And I'm sure a couple of players I've interviewed actually have mentioned Martinez as being like the best defender they've played against. And he's really shown it.
Yeah, I think the two of them as a partnership has been excellent this season. And they did it in the Champions League. They kept Haaland quiet, mostly against Dortmund. So, I mean, I think Timber has just been an absolute revelation since he's come into the Ajax side. And him and Martinez, they really are the real deal. And I think that Ajax are one of the top clubs in Europe now, but the actual top 5 leagues, to all be looking at the two of them and thinking that when they need a new centre back, those are the two that to be circling, because I think that the big clubs will start looking at the two of them as future recruits. And it's how long can Ajax keep hold of Martinez, and how long can Ajax keep hold of Timber, because I think they didn't keep them there for another couple of years, then the partnership's only going to get better. And it's exciting because I think that you see the noticeable difference when Scourge comes into the back. He's not as strong as Timber and Martinez, and that leads to mistakes. So you're hoping that Ajax can keep the two of them together for maybe to the end of the season, then another season after that. But in the summer, then it's going to be difficult to keep hold of Martinez, especially, I think.
And then I think the once that happens, you may start to see something happen with Ajax if players start to go again. Ten Hag maybe about to leave this summer, or maybe a conversation for a proper podcast when we talk about Ajax, solely them. But if there's a movement this summer with Ajax, a team like PSV could really step in. And this season, they're leading the Eredivisie. Who would have thought that after this many games? I think you did at the start of the season, Mike, but having seen the first few games of the campaign, I think people started to change their minds and think, no, it is just Ajax. And when they lost to Ajax, even more so. But Hamza's put a comment here saying PSV have a good chance for a title, but Joel Drummond has been letting the team down. More mistakes from him. Yeah, and I think there was some stats that came out recently showing he is one of the worst goalkeepers in the Eredivisie, given the expected goals he's been facing. He's been letting so many goals in. And to come full circle, and the name of this reaction, we're reacting to the European draws. And PSV have been drawn against Maccabi Tel Aviv, who I'm just looking at the table now. Yeah, 4th place currently. It's actually playing a match right now in Israel. So not even the top team in Israel. And PSV need to get past them to get to the last 16 of the Europa Conference League. What does this season hold for you then, Mike? Now, what do you think? You're very optimistic at the start of the season. They've got a lot of players out injured, but yeah, they're top of the Eredivisie. Can they go far in the Conference League? Do you think the appetite is there to do that with players such as Mario Götze? Will they be interested in that, or will it just be on the league?
I think that they'll see the Conference League as a competition that they can actually win, because I think they are one of the best teams in there on paper. If they can keep their players fit. And
do you think they'll actually go and do that, though? Do you think that because they've been slipping up so many times this season as it is, even though they're top of the league, which seems weird to say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd be top of the league at the moment, especially after some of the games you've seen them play recently. The loss against Real Sociedad was a shambles. But yeah, they seem to. I think I saw a good stat that was that if the games ended at 80 minutes in the Eredivisie, PSV would be about 6th, because that's how many points they picked up just from the last 10 minutes of games. And they did it again at the weekend. They seem to always score late goals when they're in trouble, and they did it again at the weekend.
Whereas Ajax haven't been doing that. They haven't been knocking in a goal when they've been at 0-0.
Yeah. So Ajax have been ineffective in the last 10 minutes, whereas PSV have been very effective, and that's picking them up points. And they seem to always be battling until the end of games and then picking up late winners. And you have to credit Schmidt for that. I mean, some of the substitutions worked yesterday. I mean, bringing on Romero, and he got the last minute assist. But you just can't see this PSV team not dropping points between now and the end of the season. You can see them just dropping silly points and ended up 2nd. So it's great to see them top of the table now when they're not actually playing that well, but they need to actually start to actually find their form to actually challenge Ajax. And I think that if Ajax get themselves in gear in the league, then they should walk it, especially if PSV can't keep their star men fit. I mean, Madueke just seems to be, what's his 4th hamstring injury in the past? It's a bit worrying. Yeah, you'd be saying it's a bit worrying if you're a club circling him, thinking that many injuries in that space of time. Let's hope it doesn't actually plague his career, because he is such a special talent. So hopefully they can get him back fit, get Zahavi fit, and then who knows? But right now I just can't see it. I just can't see them finishing top, even though they are there at the moment.
And to touch back on Joel Drummond, I think he's got so many mistakes in him at the moment. A keeper that had really got it right at Twente, and now seems to be going backwards a little bit, sorely lacking confidence. And if you've got someone like him, it becomes a liability. They need to switch him out from Virgo, because he's a good goalkeeper, and Drummond is costing them points. I think that they could have cost them a result against NEC if it wasn't for another late goal that got him out of trouble. I want him to get it right, but I think the right thing to do at this point is to drop him.
Yeah, I think Schmidt's got a good chance this week because he's got the KNVB Cup game. You can say that he's taking him out for the KNVB Cup game and putting Nvogo in there, and if Nvogo impresses in that KNVB Cup game, keeps a clean sheet, then he can just say, oh well, yeah, just keep him in there. But yeah, it's a shame for Drama because he is a good shot stopper at times. But even at 20, you always thought he had a mistake in him. He was a good pickup for free if he could raise his game, but he just doesn't seem to be able to have taken his game to that next level so far, where he's cut out the mistakes. I mean, when you look at PSV going to Ajax, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of Ajax fans at that point were a bit like, why are we signing him? But he's been great. I mean, he makes some really good saves in key moments, whereas you can't say that for Dromo, and you'd say Dromo would have been the better pick in the summer, but it's just not worked out for him. You need to think that PSV are probably scouring the market to see if they can pick up another goalkeeper, because if Mvogo's not number one now, then Schmidt obviously doesn't fancy him. So are they looking at bringing in somebody else? I mean, is it Ajax they're interested in Dean Henderson, or is it PSV? If you can get a caliber goalkeeper like that in January on loan or permanently, then maybe they'll go for it. But yeah, it does seem to be a problem position at the moment because he is costing them in big moments. And yeah, they could have lost that game on Sunday. It wasn't until the last 10 minutes that they actually got the 2 goals. So it could have been a very costly mistake, and you can't have that if you're going to go for the title.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just to get your thoughts on the draw itself. So we said about Ajax against Benfica. We were pretty optimistic about Ajax getting through that one. What about PSV against Maccabi Tel Aviv? Do you think that it could be a slip up or no problem to PSV and possibly winning home and away?
I mean, I don't want to be insulting to Maccabi Tel Aviv, but I think PSV should be winning that. And I think Maccabi Tel Aviv, they've got Brandon Kouas, the old Heracles winger. He's a decent player, but
It was.
Yeah, I mean, if PSV are anywhere near the caliber, they should easily win those games. I think I saw that Maccabi Tel Aviv finished second in their group, but I think they had a Finnish side and one I've never heard of in their group, and then it was Lask Linz that finished top. So not to be insulting about them, but you'd expect PSV to go through, and if they don't, then that's a bit of a shocker from their point of view. Especially if they want to prove that they are on the same level as Ajax, who can do it week in, week out in the Champions League. And if PSV can't even beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, then it shows you how far apart the two of them are.
Well, yeah, that's right. You're exactly right. And I'm seeing their group now, and it was Lask that finished top of their group, 5 wins out of 6, and they finished second behind them. And Lask are a tricky side to play against, but yeah, that group was quite a weak group. The Finnish side and Aleskert from Eastern Europe. Yeah, they should be getting through that one. And that sounds really positive again for Dutch football. They can get past these sides. And lastly, and I build this as though Vitesse have definitely gone through to the last 32, but yeah, we don't know yet. But grass is green. And they're playing against Rapid Vienna from Austria. And when you think of Ajax or PSV playing Rapid Vienna, you think tricky, but you should be getting through that. Vitesse, of course, not at that same level, but have performed so well in Europe this season. Tom has asked, what do you think of the opportunities of Vitesse against Rapid Vienna? I looked at the draw and thought possibly one of the best teams that the Dutch side could have faced.
Yeah, I think you've got to go and say that that's a pretty even draw. I think that Vitesse can get past them, but same again, Rapid Vienna will be thinking that they can get past Vitesse. So it is even. It's going to go in coin toss. But I think if we're talking about what UEFA are going to do, I mean, surely Vitesse are through, because unless they decide that somehow the game can be played in January, they're not just going to award Tottenham a win, because why would they? Stade Rennes wouldn't want that, because there's coefficient points for France. Like the French Federation would not just accept a Tottenham win, and it's only going to be a Tottenham win that would take them through. They could turn around and go, oh, well, you can't play it. You're not agreeing on a date to replay it. They would just call it a draw. And then that would be, if both sides went, yeah, fair enough. But they're not just going to go, oh, Tottenham, you've won it. And then they'd be through, because that would just be an absolute shambles. And it'd be a case of UEFA going, right, we want a big team in the competition to stay in there. It's a Premier League team, or just award Tottenham the 3 points because Rennes don't want to play the game again. And that would go through, but that would be one of the most shambolic decisions, I think. against the Dutch side we've ever seen if that happens. So, I mean, normal rules are that Tottenham pulled out of it. They should be getting on the end of a 3-0 loss, but it just worries me that they're taking time to think about it because the rules are there in black and white. So what exception are they going to make here? So why have they not just confirmed that Vitesse are through, because there's no way that Tottenham can win it unless they do decide to try and shoehorn it in January at some point. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'll be pretty confident that Vitesse should be going through, but you never know.
Yeah, that's a pretty. I'll say 60-40 in Vitesse's favour, mainly because they've performed so well in Europe this season that they go into that with new energy and they want to win and get far in Europe. And I'm really excited that all 5 Dutch sides have made it. The Dutch would say over winter. They've got over the winter into spring European football. I don't think that's ever happened before, that all sides have gone through to this stage. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the comments. And I also know it's the first time that Vitesse have ever played European football after Christmas. So excellent news for Vitesse. A great season for them. Even if they don't finish in the top 3, they can finish wherever they like, to be honest, and just perform well in this European competition. Enjoy it, because it might not be that they play it every single season. And Lois Oppenda's continues to impress as well. One of the top scorers in the Eredivisie now. His run from October has been brilliant. And I think someone like him, if he's still on that kind of level, he's still improving, that he in February, March, April, when in these games could be really, really important. And you never know, it could be that when it gets to the last sides in the European competition, the Dutch sides might have to play each other. There's 4 of them in the last 32. And if there's 4 in the last 16, it's incredible. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I think we've already done that lots this season already with just how well they've done. There's a couple of comments that have just come in here. Just wants to say, of course, if you're watching this and you're not watching live, just put a comment down below. We'll get back to you after this. Let us know what you think. Do you think Ajax, PSV and Vitesse can make it through those three ties, or will one of those sides fall out to the competition so early in February? A couple of comments, and Hamza said about Vitesse hardly make rotations, so it could have an effect later on in the season. I don't know. They kind of do what PSV do. They tend to make lots of subs in matches, keep things fresh. Players only play 60 or 70 minutes.
Yeah, I think players like Hausman has come into it recently. Yeah. He's come in to be more of a starter, and he's impressing. And Boytink as well. He's suddenly came into a starter with Fredrickson going on the bench. So he does make some rotations. So yeah, I think that they do have a decent squad to actually be able to do that. So I think they should be okay that way.
And maybe a couple of extra additions in January too would make it even better for them. Well, look, Mike, thanks for reacting with me for those 3 fixtures. Hopefully, Dutch sides again will make it through. It seems to be such an historic season for Dutch sides in Europe. And it would be even better if they could carry on that in 2022. And there's even more excellent news at the end of 2022 with the Netherlands at the World Cup. Dutch football's definitely on the up, though. Please do leave a comment if you what do you think? Do you think the Dutch sides can all make it through? And of course, do like this if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to Football-Oranje if you're new. Do head over to the Football-Oranje website. Of course, if you do not already know of his existence and you know us via YouTube, and vice versa, if you didn't know we had YouTube and you come from the website, do subscribe. Much more to come from us very soon, even over the winter break. Much more to come on Football-Oranje, so stay tuned. And there'll be another podcast out when we know who the winter champion is of the Eredivisie. More from us soon. Thanks for watching.